Battlefield 6 is finally here, and oh boy, the community is not very happy with some of the soldier skins in the game. Listen, I don't blame you at all, man. Sometimes there should clearly be a line so everything stays organized, right? To address this problem themselves, DICE have already promised us to keep the game grounded for a while. But what does grounded even mean anyway? Does it mean they're trying to make everything more realistic, or is it because my mom caught me eating a AA battery on Thanksgiving night? To find the answer, I dug into some rather weighty documents that quietly dictate how wars are fought. And luckily, I think I came up with the best definition of grounded for this game. International Humanitarian Law, or IHL, is a set of rules created to limit the effects of armed conflict. In short, this is the law of war people keep mentioning about. IHL itself is made up primarily of treaties, customary international law, and general principles of law. The set of laws is made to protect persons who are not or are no longer participating in hostilities and to restrict the means and methods of warfare. One of the areas that IHL actually regulates, and this is where it ties into Battlefield, is how soldiers should be dressed in a war zone, or if you put it in Battlefield 6 terms, how soldier skins should look like. According to IHL, a few clauses that regulate the way soldiers dress can be taken from the 3rd Geneva Convention, Additional Protocol 1, and the Hague Regulations, which in essence say 1. Armed forces must wear a fixed distinctive sign recognizable at a distance. 2. Soldiers should carry their weapons openly. And 3. They must not pretend to be civilians or wear the opponent's military uniform, as this is considered as perfidy. But why does adhering to IHL even matter anyway? Well, I will explain it to you later on in the video, but for now, what we're trying to do is evaluate whether the soldier skins we got in the game are actually grounded or not according to the base rules we mentioned earlier. So let's start with something easy, and then as we progress, we'll talk about the more challenging examples. First, we've got the NATO side uniform. This uniform belongs to the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers of the British Army. Based on this design alone, we can see that it has a very distinctive sign, meaning it has a clear silhouette, a consistent color scheme, and easily recognizable as military gear. Secondly, when we're in-game, we always carry our weapons openly, so that should also check out according to our base rules. And lastly, from this uniform, we know that it doesn't have any element that makes it look like civilian clothing, which means that based on all of the assessments above, we can conclude that this uniform or soldier skin is grounded. Pretty easy, right? Okay, now let's spice it up a little bit. What about the Phantom Squad uniform from the Phantom Edition purchase? We know for sure that they're from the USA, but we can also see that they clearly wear a different uniform design than the US NATO, which sports the Desert Tan Camo. Doesn't that mean that the uniform isn't consistent and thus not allowed in the war zone? Well, technically, no. If we assume that Phantom Squad came from a different unit, let's say they're from a special ops unit in BF6 lore, they can actually wear their unique uniform as long as they wear those throughout the deployment. Besides that, from the uniform design itself, it's still clear that you are recognizable as an armed forces from a distance, wearing complete tactical gear and not trying to disguise yourself as a civilian by wearing civilian clothing. This particular case had also previously occurred in real life during the Mosul campaign in 2016 to 2017. Where Iraqi Special Operations Forces worked jointly with US military to liberate the city of Mosul from ISIS control. Conventional forces like the 82nd Airborne typically wore standard US Army camouflage like multicam or a variation of desert or urban camo, with the mission mostly involved in advising, training, and providing indirect fire support through artillery or air support. In contrast, Special Operations Forces and embedded advisors undertook more dangerous tasks. This included planning and executing raids, forward deployment with Iraqi elite units, calling in airstrike from the front lines, conducting precision targeting, and gathering intelligence. During many of these missions, the US SOF advisors sometimes adopted non-standard uniforms, notably black or near black fatigues or gear that have the same DNA as the dress of Iraq's counter-terrorism service. These uniform choices allowed them to be less visually distinctive and blend in with partner forces to avoid friendly fire. So all in all, from this assessment and historical record, we can also conclude that the skin is grounded. Hey, friendly reminder, if you find value from my content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, since that will help me tremendously to pursue this passion and quit my 9 to 5. Thank you, and let's get back to the video. Now, what about the pre-order exclusive skin? They wear a piece of civilian clothing, which is the watch cap. Is that still okay? Well, if you look back again to Additional Protocol 1, the main point of the rule is to distinguish yourself from civilians while you're engaged in an attack. So So as long as you're not actively trying to pretend that you're a civilian and you're still distinguishable as military armed personnel, which in this case you are due to the remaining uniform and military gear still being worn, it is still legal to wear a watch cap during battle. Even some soldiers have used beanies or ski masks, which are typically pieces of civilian clothing during winter deployments. Then what about these two controversial skins? They wear something that's overly bright like neon green and that sharp bright orange. Can these skins be considered grounded? Well, if we look again to our base rules, it never mentions specifically what type of camo or color you can or can't use. IHL doesn't care about the quote-unquote fashion design of the uniform, but rather the functionality of it. So, are they legal? It's debatable. Considering that both of them wear their full military gear and carry their weapons openly, this could be considered as legal, especially for the orange man where I can still easily spot him as military personnel at a distance, but things can actually get a little murky for the green man. You see, because IHL never makes a specific criterion of what's considered distinguishable nor specifies the distance at which it should be distinguishable, this could create a problem where you might misjudge an enemy soldier as a civilian. Based on that problem alone, in real life, I would probably have trouble identifying the green man since he can look like a normal guy wearing a shirt and sweatpants from a long distance. Look, I know it probably sounds too deliberate, but you get the idea. So does that count them as trying to blend in with civilians, or is it simply a personal misjudgment from us? To answer that, I must tell you that even this topic is still highly debatable in international humanitarian law circle. One of the most challenging parts of war crimes investigation is proving the true intent of the disputed party. And I'll be honest with you guys, when it comes to IHL dispute territory, I'm not an expert in this topic myself. So I'm just gonna let you guys have your own opinion about our green man. To wrap things up, why should anyone care about IHL anyway? Why not just wear whatever uniform is in the best interest for your country's victory? The truth is, besides the fact that it's actually a legal obligation for all parties in international armed conflict, adhering to IHL will also give you a safeguard as armed military personnel. By distinguishing yourself as a lawful combatant and following the rules of war, military personnel become entitled to protections such as prisoner of war status if captured. This means that, in theory, they cannot be prosecuted under the detaining powers national law simply for taking part in hostilities. They must also receive human treatment, medical care, protection from torture or degrading treatment, and even be given communication with their families. But what about for Battlefield 6 itself? Well, I think the use of IHL can be very beneficial for Battlefield when devs use it as guidelines and boundaries to expand the game's cosmetics in the future. Most people are already tired of how games treat themselves nowadays. There are almost no more arcade shooters that don't turn themselves into Fortnite with their skins customization. So for Battlefield to stick with the grounded military approach, I think it would be a refreshing take for the mature audience in the FPS market. The amount of cool soldier uniforms in real life is pretty endless too, like the British SAS, Russian Spetsnaz Gorka, Vimpel, Polish Grum, and many more. So we'll see how DICE will approach this game's direction in the future. I hope they stick with the grounded approach for a very long time, or maybe for the entire lifespan of Battlefield 6. But until then, I'm gonna leave it to the community to guide DICE to stay on the right path, and hopefully this will turn into a strong collaboration where community becomes really closely knit with the developers directly. Alright, that's all from me now. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned a new thing or two. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Stay healthy y'all, and bye bye.